What's up, fam? Jackson Johnson here from the Jackson Johnson podcast. Today's podcast is with the man himself, Ben Everyingham. Ben Everyingham is the CEO, owner, and operator of Pumped On Property, a multi-million-dollar business that helps people find out where to buy property and pushes them in the right direction. Ben is changing the way property is bought, sold, and designed all around the world through his incredible coaching and team. Join Ben and myself as we discuss how he went from absolute rock bottom, living week to week, paycheck to paycheck, to now owning a multi-million-dollar business and doing what he loves. As a massive appreciation and incentive, I'll be picking one person from the reviews who leave a 5-star and a comment on their feedback. One of my 12-week transformation programs. You guys can choose from a 12-week shred or a 12-week lean bulk. It's up to you. So hit that pause button right now. Go to the bottom, write an awesome review, hit that 5-star rating, and you can be the lucky person to win 12-week transformation program with me, guiding you along the way the whole time. All right, we're live. How are you, bro?
Yeah, excited.
Good. We literally just did like a few push-ups, pull-ups, hanging off the stairs and stuff. How do you feel?
Dude, I feel awesome. Like, I forgot how good getting in state is straight away. Like, I've just come off a huge day, and then, like, you walk in, it's like push-ups, pull-ups, a little bit of hanging, now I'm here.
Yeah, I'm the same, man. Like, I do podcasts at home, and I don't even get myself in state.
Don't you?
Just, like, monotone. And people will message me and be like, really loved it, man. It was, like, super calming, but you have more energy in real life. And I'm like, well, because I've just come out of the beach. Or, like, when I do an Instagram video or whatever, I've just come out of the beach. I'm feeling, like, A1. And, like, you've got to get yourself to at least A.
Dude, my voice, as you know, like, from hanging out is pretty monotone at the best of times. So I need, like, the state changer for sure.
So, guys, this is Ben, one of my really, really good friends. We met through, like, a friend of a friend. And then Ben did some personal training with me. And then I basically hired Ben for some business coaching as well. And now we're just straight friends. We catch up nearly every weekend. If we don't catch up face to face, we're only a text away. We always know that information, like if we ever need a tip or someone to bring us up, have a beer or catch up, always a good conversation. And Ben works in property. Still to this day, I don't exactly know what he does.
No one close to me knows what I do, bro.
Yeah. And it's because he doesn't talk about, you don't talk about money and what you do and stuff. You just ask good questions. And that's what I was like, we've got a podcast because no one asks the questions like you do. But this time I want to kind of ask you the questions. These guys, most of the people that are listening to this are on my side of the podcast. I know you probably use this audio as well. They know a fair bit about me, hopefully from the last few episodes. So
awesome.
I'm going to ask you some stuff. We're going to dive straight into it. And I'm going to ask you, where were you at around 17, 18 years old, and give us a short run through of like the work you went through and like, were you born into a successful family? Were you quite rich when you were younger, or what did you go through?
Bro, like the complete opposite of that, but not as hardcore as you went through. Like I know we've talked about your stuff and it's been gnarly. For me, my parents didn't have any cash. And so until I was 5 years of age, we literally lived in like a caravan in my grandma's driveway.
Shit, I love that we haven't gone in depth in this because when you're saying this, I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
It's a story, and I think we've got to build a story for them to be value of what you're doing now.
For sure.
So keep going.
So like we started there because mum and dad needed to save a deposit, and this was a time when they thought they'd need to jump in there for 6 months, and then property prices literally doubled in like 2 years. And so we ended up staying there for a while they did that. And then we, sort of fast forward, mum and dad didn't have much cash till I was about 15, I think, 14. My dad started his own thing, and he started a business which, enabled them to sort of set themselves up. But the foundation for me was growing up with like money's super hard. Like rich people are bad.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff.
Even when your dad had money, or when you got to a point where you're more comfortable, your dad seems like, from the stories I've heard, he still made you work your ass off to even see any of that.
Oh, bro, like I laugh about this shit now. Like every week we had chores, and it wasn't just like make your bed stuff or clean your room up. It was like vacuum downstairs, clean the bathrooms, clean their cars, like just not militant style, like
No,
but you know, like I didn't get anything that wasn't Christmas Day or birthdays. Like it was sort of like you've got to earn your money, if you know what I mean.
I think that's what it should be.
Yeah, like I'm sort of trying to raise my kids now that same way, but when you're going through it, bro, same, you know, it's like I remember this story that I've like kept on in my head, which was like my mum didn't have enough money to buy me clothes, so we used to go to the like what's like
op shop, St. Vinny's,
like not even, man, like Spotlight where you buy fabric.
Oh yeah.
And so we'd go
she didn't make clothes.
I'd go choose fabric, bro, and she'd make me my fucking boardies, man. This is how bad it was. And we would
and now that's the cool thing to do these days.
I went to an op shop, and like back 20 years ago, it wasn't cool, bro. But I went to this like op shop and like broke down a pair of like boardies. Like I picked the Billabong tag off it, and like must have sewed it onto like 20 pairs of pants my mum made me, man. Like it was literally like
because you know, you're not that much older than me, and like the surfing brands were the thing.
Back then, man, when you're a kid and you're like growing up, that was all there was.
Rip Curl, Billabong, Quicksilver, and that was it.
So yeah, like my approach to money, like growing up, and the value system beliefs I had around it were really toxic, because all of the foundational stuff that I picked up when I was young, which is when we pick it up properly, was just locked into that way.
So it was just like you have to work actually hard.
You have to work real hard, and money's a pain point in the family. Like heaps of fights about it and stuff. So like money's bad because it creates conflict.
It's funny that you say that, because I think I was stuck in there for a while, and I'm still working through that. And that's why, you know, you said to me before in a few conversations after we've been training, and you're like, you're one of the best trainers. Like you've said to me, you're one of the best trainers.
No, the best trainer.
Yeah, the best trainer. Yeah. And you could make, you know, 6 figures online if you learn how to monetize yourself. But I didn't believe in myself. And then also when I hear big figures, I feel like bad, you know, being rich is bad.
Yeah.
You know? So it's strange, but I think we have to understand that it's the freedom that we actually want. And I think that's when you stepped across from when you were younger, worked for a few people, and you realize it's like, no, money's not bad. It's like what you do with it.
It's if you're a bad person, money makes you worse.
Yeah.
If you're a good one, it can make you better. And, you know, I was just, to be really honest with you, bro, like a selfish little shit in my 20s, man. I was all about like, I went to Europe at 19 with the boys, and I was just blown away, because when you're 18 and you bump into a 25 or a 30-year-old dude who most of his mates have moved on with their life, and you're just filled with energy and stoked on what they're doing. And we started to meet these dudes in Paris and down in the French Riviera that are like taking us on super yachts and like taking us back to their pads. And I'd grown up in this like crappy little suburb on the south side of Sydney that was pretty much 80% household at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? There's an actual different way. Like I'd never even seen cash before, or nice houses, or people that
nice
didn't
guys
work
too.
hard. Legends, bro. So kind. And I was like, wow. So as soon as I got back, I moved away, because I'm like, I want that. And at the time I thought it was money, but what I really wanted was choices and freedom at an earlier stage of life that they had.
And just be able to give back to people around you as well. And I think one of your big motivations on making good money and being successful in business is not just for yourself. Like you want to be able to give back to your mum and your dad when they're older. And that's a big driver for you. Let's go through, I want to hear, like, I remember little bits of stories that I've heard from your brother and other people around you, and little bits from you, but more about that leaving high school. Maybe you had a few years where you didn't go to university, but you did study something, and then between studying you worked for people doing normal labour jobs and stuff like that.
For sure, man. Like I left Sydney at 19 and basically came to the sunny coast to test it out. And up until then, like the couple of years before that, I was working labouring jobs, just trying to figure it out. Tried to go study, but just wasn't ready for it. Just wanted to party, travel, like do all the stuff you want to do.
Still in Sydney?
Yes, like Sydney, living there and then going overseas like every chance I could.
Yeah. Trying to escape.
Escape, man. And I realised that...
But also culture.
Just getting away, bro. You know, when you're like young and you've seen different things. I came back from my first trip going, I get this shit. I get life now. But really I didn't. Like I just...
It opened that that new thing that you're like, there is lots of cool shit out there.
There's cool things and people doing stuff that we're not.
And you don't just, with money, you don't just buy cars and stuff. Like, you actually see new things, get on boats, network with people, and the more you do that, you seem to find more successful people. When you find more successful people, you learn more about how to be successful. It's like a compound effect.
That was a funny thing, bro, because I started to do this labouring thinking, cool, I'll do that, and working restaurants and bars and all the stuff you do. And then I'd travel and I'd meet these amazing people travelling because I was in like a flow state, and then come back to my reality and go, I don't know what the next step looks like, but I'm no longer connecting with these people around me in the same way, like everyone does. And so I knew that studying was the option because, you know, poor dad mindset that my family come from, just study, it'll fix everything. You know what I mean? Like, so I did go to uni, and at that point I really started to connect dots, like not financially because it took me 4 years to finish
networking and giving you time to think about what you don't want to be doing.
For sure, bro. So I jumped around heaps at uni. And
what did you study? A few things, just
like business I studied environmental sustainability, and community development as well. Like, I really have a passion for social. It just hasn't been realised, you know, in 10 years, if you know what I mean.
I mean, you're off to an incredible start, and I get advice off you about social media, even though I'm the social media guy. So, like, you can always learn things from different people.
Oh, sorry, when I say social, like, I mean
actual
like community development, man. Like, really, I went and worked for Oxfam, the Oak Tree Foundation, and I worked for a couple of other non-for-profits while I was at uni, and I was like, there's a missing link here, and that is good business skills and good management skills that these people don't have because they're so passionate, but they can't cut through because they don't have the skill set. And that's when I put the dot together, which was, if I get great at business and free soon, the second half of my life can be spent serving people with the skills that actually create change.
You can't do a non-for-profit foundation and you can't be living off McDonald's and
I didn't
noodles.
respect these people running them, man. I was like, you haven't got your personal shit together. How can you like help other people yet?
I think they're escaping reality by thinking that if they give back to the community, that they'll be happy about that. But I think
most of it was ego driven. I found in these people, like they were there to tell people that they were there.
Yeah.
And it was, sorry, like, I know that's off, but
no,
it was weird for me to see that, and it took the glossiness away from it for me.
I think, and that's why I think there is some people coming up now that are doing it right.
For sure.
But usually they're like, we went to Tony Robbins together and we connected really well there. And what we found is Tony Robbins gives back non-for-profit at a level that you could not explain.
It's insane.
Millions, billions. He proves that the money that people, he does like foundations and giveaways and like builds up money for these non-for-profits, and he proves where it's going and it goes to actually them. And the only reason he could do that properly is because he made himself super successful first. Mm-hmm. So I do believe it's not ego driven for him. It's like, I've got more than what I need.
For sure. Like, I remember hearing this thing ages ago when I was travelling through Asia, and it's like in any relationship in life, if me and you come to this convo with 2 full circles each, it creates another full circle. Where if you come half empty and I'm half empty or full, it doesn't work, man, because we both need something from each other. So, yeah, it's an interesting concept to think about that. And, you know, at that time, I also got accepted to this Harvard business program. Like, a few kids in Australia got selected, and it was Harvard and Cambridge put together this program for entrepreneurial kids. Or America? They run it in Australia and they've run it in London. And I met these kids from all over the world that were sort of like applied for this thing. And I just, again, it connected the dots because I like learnt for a couple of weeks how to start a business through this program, and met kids from all over the world that were just doing stuff. And I was like, shit, I'm like a big fish in a small pond on the sunny coast. And that started to get me thinking about the rest of the world again. And that's why, you know, after uni we went back to Sydney for a while.
Oh, so you came up here to do university?
Yeah, I came up here to finish it, yeah.
To finish it, and you realised that the sunny coast just wasn't, you needed more of a growth environment.
Yeah, at 25 I'm like, man, am I living in a retirement village? Like, I need more than this. I need to compete against the best to realise I am the best, if you know what I mean. At that time, my thinking was still really...
It was competition-based.
Competition-based as opposed to internal.
Yeah, because you need drive. You need some type of drive. And at that age, young men are egotistic.
Yeah.
We can't say no. And the guy that's playing the video game that's kind to everyone around him, it doesn't mean he doesn't drive his ego through being the best online.
For sure.
I went to that as well. So you went back to Sydney. You met and networked and seen the opportunity in building your own business through what you learned, but you also seen that you didn't need to do another 3 or 4 years to get to that skill. You knew that you learned to start off platform, but you could probably visualize growth quicker than what you could if you stayed at uni.
That was the thing, man. So I finished my degree and then got into IBM's global program, which is like one of the better sales programs and project management programs in the world. And I went in going, I'm going to be around people like me every day. This is going to be sick. And then I walked in and realized, like, for me, this is no disrespect, but the big businesses are the next best place to hide outside of a government job. Yeah. Being brutally honest, there's so much place to hide, man.
The more people you hire. Like, I worked at UE when it first, the first big launch when they were in their first 3 or 4 years. And UE is actually a South African insurance company.
Yeah.
So they come over here knowing exactly how to do everything.
Yeah.
And being a part of the first 100 sales, I was only 17 years old.
Wow.
I had to lie to get the job. And then when I got the job, they're like, oh, he's already here. We might as well keep him. I networked a little bit, but I seen like just little rodents on a little rodent wheel on the phone, just being a part of a number. And they just couldn't be micromanaged or held accountable really properly. So I left there thinking, I'm not going to sit down and waste away here. Like the training I did at the start of UE, they sent me away for a training course. Once I got that and I got paid to be there, once I got that, I was like, the world is my oyster. Like, I just left it. I actually went back to high school, partied like crazy and hung out with my friends and realized I needed to do that.
For sure.
Needed to get that networked, told epic stories about moving from little country town Gympie to the Sunshine Coast, to doing training in Brisbane, to then going on to study fitness and training. And it made me realize, I was like, I got to get out of that. I finished year 12 there and realized I got to get out of this country town.
Yeah.
Like, that was like you going back to Sydney. So I went back to the coast and I was like, that was my Sydney, because I was from a small country.
Yeah, it's the same
town.
diff, bro.
As long as I had a growth period. And I'm going through that right now. Like, I'm about to go overseas for 4 months and I'm going to spend a lot of time in Bali, and I'm looking to basically move part-time back and forth from Bali or wherever I can get work in America, working for big fitness industries. And I'm like, I can't just stay full-time on the coast anymore.
Yeah.
And if I need to make sacrifices to get there, I got too comfortable. We'll talk about that. Like, you get comfortable and then there's no growth.
Yeah.
So how did you go from the young guy that was working at IBM, just doing, labor work here and there, to how did you come up with the idea of your business, Pumped On Property, and what do you actually do and how did you come up with the idea?
So I went from IBM and I peeled back another curtain, like I peeled back a curtain at uni and labouring and travelling and going, this isn't enough for me personally. And I went and worked for a couple of other, like 3 really successful entrepreneurs after that for about 1.5 years each. So I didn't even start my business, man, till 28. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, so there was a big period in between of 4, 5, 6 years where I just shadowed people that were really successful.
Because you learn from their mistakes. Instead of losing $500,000 in debt yourself, you're like, you've seen that, Like,
I watched a dude, I was his second employee, and we drove the business up to 50 employees and then 100 and then back down to 3. Like, I went through that whole growth and decline, and then I went on to another one that went from 8 to 30 back to 8, and then another one that went from like 1 to 15. And I watched these guys and the lessons were just insane, bro. Like, I learned so much, particularly in the last job, because I was a franchise manager for marketing, and I got to connect with all these franchisees all over Australia, and all of them were millionaires, man. And I just hung out with these people for 2-3 years, and my mindset just shifted. I was like, these guys aren't smarter, they're not better, they're not anything more than I am, they're just doing it, what I mean?
Patterns and habits.
Man, and the right model. Like, sometimes it's not even working hard, it's just working the right model at the right time.
I think if the person who bought the 3rd or 4th Subway couldn't have died, like couldn't have struggled. Like, they were like, okay, these first 2 are blowing up, people are just finding out about it, it's the new healthy fast food or whatever. Yeah. Just follow what the last guy said, the booklet back then.
It was the booklet, bro.
Yeah, and just follow it, and even if you don't follow it 100%, like, it's just going to boom. So, Because you were just saying then that you were with these businesses that scaled really big and then scaled back down. That's similar to what's kind of happened in your business at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you can see the future of them, and you understand it's not painful for you to go scale down or change what you're doing, because you understand that it's about just keeping up with the changes, being a part of the...
It's been... Watching them win or lose was different to watching myself win or lose, and it's been a lot more emotional and intense this time around. But, I'm working for my last boss, man, and he was a young dude, 37, making $4-6 million a year, bro, after taxes in his pocket.
Profit.
Came in 3 days in the year that I finished up with him, like we were running it for him.
Yeah.
Killing it, and I learnt what he did, and then
the quiet damn Brazilian.
Yeah, there's so many wealthy people around, bro, that just don't talk about it. What I mean? And this guy was just, him and I, because I was still competitive. I was like, dude, I'm running this thing for you, and I'm not getting the reward, and my nature's just, I need my cup filled. I'm not going to sit here for the rest of my life and fill his. And so at that point, I started to look at options. I started to write a blog, Pumped on Property. I tried to buy out his business without telling him, and I got fired, bro.
Oh, so you got fired?
I got fired from that job.
You sneakily did it, but it's smart because you could see that you could do what he was doing.
It wasn't smart. Now I look back, it was like the dumbest thing I've ever done, to be honest with you.
To get you here.
Yeah, it got me here, but
it was ego driven.
It was the wrong way to go about going to that next step. I could have just sat down with him and gone, dude, you don't want to do anything anymore. I do. You're making enough money. I want to help you make more. Cut me into the business.
Yeah, get a percentage.
I'll do the next 5 years for you the hard way and crank it, and you just kick back with your fam. But instead I was like...
Fuck you.
Fuck you, I'm going to do it my own way.
I'm going to get you, motherfucker.
So I walk home after being fired. I've got my second baby, 6 weeks of age, a bunch of properties.
You already had kids by then?
Kids, man.
So explain that. What age what was your thoughts when, your wife now fell pregnant then? What was your thoughts? What was the thoughts going through your head? I want to dive into that. You've got a steady business role, you're working with a big business and you're quite busy.
Yeah.
When you're working for someone, usually they're just really stringing you out.
Yeah.
And you're doing a lot of stuff. Marketing doesn't stop 24/7. What was the feelings and thoughts when you found out you were having a kid?
The first time round was full on fear, because I was working...
I'm scared just listening.
It was just full on, bro, because my whole life flashed before my eyes. I was pretty young. We found out when I was 26 and a half.
That's me
and
right now.
We weren't planning it. Man, it'd be like you finding out today, bro.
I would get it done. You did.
Which we did. It definitely spiked my motivation. I was working in North Queensland earning bulk coin, doing business development up there, and then chose to literally I reduced my income to about 10% of what it was up there to come back to the coast. To
bring your child up.
To come home, man, and just be
with
come
family.
here. Yeah, and I'm I've done that a few times, man, where I've gone from big cash to 40 grand base salary, knowing that within 12 months I'll figure it out again. And
to have an environment that's better for the people around you. There's no ego in that. And I think once you realise that you're a father, it changes a lot of things.
Oh, dude, instantly for me, or it doesn't, and
it doesn't for some people.
People don't show up.
I mean, sometimes they learn, but growing up without a father, it would have changed it for him too. But he just didn't handle the change. I mean, too much pressure. So I think with time, it's hard back then. They just make the decisions there. So you had your first kid, back down to the Sunshine Coast, closer to family. You had your second kid, and then you lost the job. The big job.
6 weeks after, a couple of property projects going on and really needing cash flow. At this time in my life, I was all in, man. So every time I had a deposit, spending it.
You were buying properties already?
Yeah, so by that point we owned 7 or 8 properties.
Oh, so that's you were the whole time you were working for these other guys, for these other companies throughout 24 to 26. You were still doing Pumped on Property blog?
No, so
there's buying.
2 things that were happening. From 24, I started to buy investment property because I thought I can become financially free by the time I'm 30 through investing. And then I found such a passion for property, like you have with fitness, that it became, from about 27, a business opportunity. So I started to just blog, and then that blog turned into a business.
When you say investment property, what's the difference between an investment property and just normal property? Because I'm new to the property industry.
So an investment is literally any property that you buy to rent out. When you're talking normal properties, instead of living in it.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying there. So I had this
you would just rent somewhere, but buy somewhere and rent it out to make more money. And rent
sure.
it. So I can picture you now. You will be renting a pretty average house, but
shit boxes, bro.
Shit boxes to know that you're making coin through your investment property. Letting another family live in your big house.
Yeah.
Because when you've got your own kid coming through, you know that it's a long-term plan.
Dude, we moved like 11 times in 9 years, just doing what needed to be done, bro. Because I didn't know I'd start a business. Honestly, I just thought
it would be just be
all I could
successful.
see is get out through property. I'm like, if I can have 50 grand a year coming in without going to a job, that'll release me from going to a job. And I'm, but then kids started to come on, and your cost of living goes up
way higher.
It's like,
and you want to leave a legacy as well. Like you want to be as part of something where it's more than just like, all right, I've got 5 or 6 properties. They're making me money, and then what do? You just sit around at home and fucking play games or something. You know what I mean? Like you got to have something to actually.
It's the biggest thing that changed for me, man, and it didn't happen till I was 30. Where until I was 30, everything I did was about me. Being super honest, outside of like family and mates, everything business-wise, financial was about how can I win. From 30 onwards, my mindset went to how can I help everyone else kill it, and then from then that's when it changes, bro, because everything I do now is for someone else and I get a benefit of that, but it is purely a different motivation.
I'm a massively selfish person, and I actually coach other people how to be more selfish.
Yeah.
But being a PT, I just over time, when I stopped writing on my diary and my calendar on my phone how much I was making per client, and all I was doing is being like, there's a set price for half an hour, an hour. As long as I'm covering more than my rent at home and at the gym, all I'm going to just concentrate is how can I make the client super happy, super fit and driven on a level that was more than just what they look like. And they would just spread the word.
Dude.
And the feedback would come back to me, and I would feel great around them. And then the money would increase. And I got asked a few weeks ago from one of our friends, I think it was Andrew, he's like, oh, like how much do you make? And I was like, I don't know exactly. Like I know that's something that I need to work on, but I don't want to focus so much on the exact dollar coming in through the clients, because I'm like, I'm paying everything and I'm saving money.
Yeah, some clients you'll charge $200 an hour to because that's what you're worth, and then some clients you'll, go, shit, this is like a win-win. It might be less than that. You know what I mean?
There's a special condition. Like when I'm training you, definitely, because I'm asking business questions. I'm like hiring you out as a business coach, and then getting personal training as well with you. So that's super awesome. So you started doing blogs for Pumped on Property.
Started to do blogs, right? And I
was Facebook even around?
It was, bro. And I was an amateur on it. Let's just say that it was starting to work because I was using it to find franchisees in my day job.
So it's more a networking tool. You weren't just selling off it. You were networking through it.
Yeah, and what I did is I just had this goal: 3 blogs a day or 3 blogs a week for a year and a half. And I was getting about 12,000 people a month through the site reading this stuff by then. And they kept asking the same question, like, loving what you're doing, can you help me buy? And I'm like...
You're like, oh my God.
I'm like, hang on,
because you were just blogging because it was passion.
Passion, man. Just sharing, like, mainly the mistakes I was making, because I was buying so much so quickly. I was fucking a lot of stuff up.
That's a lot of stress, putting down, like, you probably had 2 million in debt at times.
Yeah, 2 million, like, on a good day.
On a good day. Yeah.
So, it was just this... It's funny how life does that sometimes, man. Like, if you just... that was the first time in my life I was like, I'm doing this to help people without an agenda.
Yeah.
And then by doing that, people was kind of like, same with you with your training, man. I met you through a mutual friend and I was like, far out, that dude is just epic. I want to be around him. I have to pay to be around him because everyone wants to be around you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do training and, like, you've completely transformed my life as a result of that. Give me so much more confidence outside of business to be like a better dad, better person, better business person, because I've got the energy back.
I mean, I think I didn't know how successful you were because you turn up to training with.
Oh, just like a bum, bro.
You were just like a discoloured old board shorts from surfing years ago, and just like a loose, cheap ass cotton on shirt, and just nothing, no watch, nothing fancy, no fancy shoes, and just fly in and just be at good character and just asking me questions like you're a 12-year-old kid. You're like, why are we doing this exercise? Most people I just say, do this, do this, do this. And you're like, oh, what's better about this one than this one? And I was like, this dude can ask questions. And then I realized the best, most successful people I've met in my whole life ask the right questions. And one thing I wanted you to understand is it doesn't matter how successful you are in business. And I didn't even know at the time, but I know that was a subject that came up. I was like, you need to be healthy. The best people in business have that even amount.
100%, bro. It's the foundation of a successful business is being healthy, because for so many reasons, and it's more mental health these days for me than physical.
which comes in training.
100%.
In the breath, comes in the flow state. Learning that, like just before we started the podcast, you're hanging off the bottom of the staircase, doing dead hangs and pull-ups and push-ups on the ground and squats, and realizing that maybe before you might have been like, I need to go to a gym to be fit. And you came to one of the biggest gyms on the Sunshine Coast, and I had you doing bodyweight training because I could feel that's the direction that you wanted to go. You would say, can we get the same results by doing this? I said, yes. And you were like, wow. And then you actually seen the results right in front of you, the fastest results you've ever got in your whole life.
It was insane.
My
wife loved the results, bro. The results have declined right now, unfortunately, but I'm working back to it.
You're coming back, and it's because you needed to focus on business through a surge, and you had a massive surge in business, which took your attention away, and that's what your lesson needed to learn next time. That yes, capitalize on a surge in success, but never drop lower than the standard you want to be in another area, because it's actually a scale of evenness.
100%.
And if this level drops, yes, this level will go up, but it will just eventually come back down, and this will take ages to come back up, like the health side. So I want to get back onto, people always see people like so you have, I would say it easily, you have a multi-million-dollar business overall with property all over the place. But I want to go back to, people see people that are successful and all they see is the high success, the big area. So you wrote blogs for a year and a half, 3 blogs a week, just not for making money, just to start with.
Just to write them, bro.
Yeah. And how much time would it take each blog? Like
2 to 3 hours, because they were like in-depth, long format.
Yeah, and it's not like fitness advice where it's like eat this. You're like, hey, I bought in this area, it was this type of house, this is the mistake I made, this is what happened to the economy, you have to explain the economy.
Really specific stuff, like really specific, and just lessons I was learning.
And what was the traffic going to the blog? What was that like?
It started from nothing. Like, I'd be stoked when I saw like I'd look at the analytics like every week, and I'd see 2 people at my site. And I wrote like for 6 months with like 50 people a month coming through the site.
And just kept writing.
Just kept going, man, because I didn't know why. I just knew it was the right thing to do.
Did you feel?
And it was expressing myself, bro. Like
without people even reading it when you first started, did you feel so pumped when you finished each blog?
I felt like it was just my life's calling in writing a blog about my experiences. Because when the thing about anything is, as you know, bro, like, you completely transformed your body, your environment, and some people that you grow up with are supportive of that, and a lot of people like, F you, dude, like. And it's the same thing with buying properties. It's the first one's exciting for everyone because, like, I could buy a property, and then the second one it's like, oh, what are you doing? And then I just stopped talking about it. So
yeah, they're not going to understand.
I was on this journey, man.
They're living high school, find your sweetheart, buy one property, work your ass off your whole life to pay it off. You might pay it off by the time you're 70. Get a caravan, go around Australia, and be like, what the fuck do we do?
That just makes me so sad that that's the norm.
People are doing it right now. Hundreds and thousands of people who listen to this are going to be like, fuck it.
Yeah.
But maybe if they're, under 70 or even 70, they can still change.
I felt the same way, bro. Like, I was like, F you, until I was like...
You can change.
success in anything leaves clues, in health, in relationships, in business, in property. And I was like, I'm going to stop thinking about being them, and I'm just going to become them and not try and reinvent the wheel for myself until I've done it. You know what I mean? I'm like, creating a new business that's never been invented before, which was what I was always thinking, or 10 products. I'm just going to do one thing really well, and I know it will work out medium term, but I had no idea how. It's weird, bro.
So in a form, where was it? What viewing or visits to your Pumped On property did you get to until you were... Like, obviously, it just happened just like me, bro. I'm posting selfies and food photos on Instagram. I'm 20 years old. I just moved, like 19 years old. Just got my first fucking tattoo. Sick as fuck. Got my first car. Like, I had the shittest cars. I got no money towards buying a car. My mum said she'd give me $2,000 if I saved $2,000. I got my first old Commodore. Commodore. Crashed that. Mum's like, I'm never giving you shit again until you show respect. I was like, you're right. Got a Corolla. I drove a Corolla for ages. I finally moved to the coast. Worked my ass off doing PT. I was getting up at 4 a.m. to do boot camps, and I was up till like 1 a.m. playing video games online because I was so upset that I hated my job and I thought it was the one I wanted to do. That I would want to hang out with. It's a big one, bro. I wanted to hang out with my mate to get some time with love, and it's crazy. I know that losing sleep is not healthy at all, but what's crazy is it works so well because I had so much fun from when I finished work till when I went to bed, that I was just like, I'm just going to work through this, because to stay on the coast, living in the
just
resort that I was at,
do, bro.
I need to. And I think that's what people are going through. That's why the weekend gets there and they drink and they go out and stuff like that. That was that fun that I will suffer for those days. But I learned quickly that it was only a short-term suffering. You find a way. Posting photos on Instagram, didn't even really know. I remember my girlfriend got Instagram, had it for like 6 months, and I was paying her out. I was saying, it's just Instagram stuff. Like, I only just got used to Facebook from MySpace, man. And I was like, what is this silly Insta crap? Like, and then I got it eventually, because you either keep up with technology or you fall behind. I got it. I was like, started doing posts of like selfies and food and that. And people were asking me how, like, just, there was an elevator to go up to the second story of the resort that I was living at. And it was a pretty basic resort. But it was nice for what I was used to, country town, and that elevator had a really good mirror in it. And I'd finish doing my swimming. I would do a few laps in the pool. I'm a water guy, like Aquarius. I was always pool, and then I'd do a bodyweight workout on the side of the pool, and then I'd run to the elevator before I lost my pump to get a photo and all the angles. And I was like, that looks sick.
Yeah.
And I was so skinny back then, but just making the progress.
The elevators always have the sick lights in them too, like the best lighting, Fight Club lighting, eh?
Yeah, so good. I'm like, and you know what? I realised that right there was before anyone was writing articles about own the morning, own your day, before anyone was talking that I know of. To this day, there's only guys coming out with those big things now that are actually in fitness. Business guys would talk about it, like just making sure the first hour of your day you write your gratitude down, but fitness guys and business guys hadn't really evolved into one yet. I realized that I was just setting up a successful morning where when I see myself in that mirror, even though it was egotistic, it was actually, for me, it was like, I'm an epic trainer. I can progress. Everyone else can progress. People would ask me,
that's so sick.
What am I eating? How am I training? And I'd be like, oh, it's really simple. I just have tuna and pasta salad, or I have like just really cheap stuff. And they're like, oh, can you put it into can you write it up? And then I was like, wait up. I could charge for this. And is that where you got to? With
that was the
property?
penny, man. And isn't it crazy when someone asks that question and your mind just goes, oh.
But you know why? We got to that point without trying to sell something. We got to that point, and that's when you know a business is going to work, because you've got the demand already. You
can't add heaps of value to people's lives and not have a good life as a result. And what happened for me, I'd been writing for about 16 months, and then this lady, Sally, legend, became a friend, goes, Ben, I'm thinking of buying a property, building one. I know you're in this space. Who are you building with? And I went, I'll introduce you to a builder. And that builder, when I introduced her, is like, hey, mate, I want to pay you a referral fee. And I'm like, oh, how much do you pay? And he's like, normally they ask for 20 grand. And I was like, what? And I'm like, no, I can't do that. So I rung Sally and said, Sally, he's offered me 20 grand. I'm thinking about taking 5 from his profit margin. Like, it's not a cost to you, it's out of his. She's made like 600K on this property and this since we bought it for her. Yeah. And I was just like, holy shit.
So you only took 5 from the 20?
I get 5 because, like, man, I'm a values-based person. Like, I don't want someone to lose to win is not in my makeup. So
I would have taken 10.
Yeah, well, looking back now. But cause I wasn't making anywhere close to $5,000 a week after tax.
Oh, that was
at
big
time.
money still, yeah.
So I'm like, this is one email I've made $5,000. And I'm like, holy shit. So the next month, someone else asked me, and then the month after 2 people did, and pretty soon I was making like my annual salary, like, you know what I mean, in like a short period of time, like, and I was
with a few taps on the keyboard and ringing someone,
just a call and an introduction, because
that's new business,
and it was crazy, dude. And then I was like, so I had the confidence before I got fired that this could work, and all I was doing was introducing people to builders, and then, you know, I got fired, and my wife's like, you can go work for someone else, be miserable as...
She pushed you into this, didn't she?
Yeah, or she's like, I was crying like I was a mess, because I'm like, I've got kids to feed, and I've like failed my family.
And you're meant...
There's no backup plan.
We're always taught the man has to be the main provider, the primal man, like... And I think that's taking a shift now, but it's still going to be driven into us.
Oh, bro.
From any man will always say, we got to provide more.
As soon as you have kids, that kicks in. And my family, my dad was the sole provider and a very high performer. So by the time he started businesses and stuff, it was just like, you've got to, like, it's not just go on a normal salary. It's like,
no, be above, go above, above and beyond.
And it's like toxic looking back now, that mindset, but it's also helped me a lot. So yeah, man, I get fired. She says you can't do it. So what I did is I went and laboured for my brother-in-law 3 days a week. I just went straight to that to keep our head above water, and I just hustled. Because
you've told me about this story, or I've heard of this story about other people, because it happens to be that other friend there. He's making good money, and he's in that same business or a different business now. But he still has a bit of pain in his life. But to know that, it freaked me out when I met you as a group of friends, that the guy that still has some pain in his life, that you used to work for him.
Yeah.
And now you're the guy that owns a big company. And it's like, you just did that to get by, but you also learnt lessons through that, and you just had to go through more suffering back then.
I was like, I'd been working in corporate office environments for 6 years, and I was so drained from it. You lose so much of yourself when you got to work 60 hours a week for someone like that. And I was just like, one, I need cash flow because I've got these properties going on that are losing me money every week. 2, I just need a reset, bro. Like, get out of my head and get into my body. And that was sick. And I did that for like 3 months and just worked, like hustled like 70 hours a week, just writing blogs. And anytime someone would comment on my page, I would like ask them for their number and then give them a call and just talk about where they're at and where they wanted to be. And went and got all my licensing that I needed to get, and it was full on, bro. Like, it was like, are we going to make this every day, waking up sick?
So on the dollar every week.
And then all of a sudden, like, we're getting 3 people a month working with us, and we're getting like 5, and then we're getting like 15 people working with us every month, and I'm charging them, and I was like, this is nuts. And
by then you leave the landscaping.
Oh, bro, like
quickly, yeah.
3 months in landscaping. He was like, Christmas, I'll give you a job till Christmas, because I was useless.
Yeah. You were a corporate guy.
Yeah, I was like just building fences and like ruining stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was just a mad experience. Like, I wouldn't trade it for the world, and it was so good just hanging with him and knowing that he had my back. I think I needed that safety net at that time.
That's huge. Like, basically family through a friendship, and to know that if all goes bad, like, I can dig holes.
I'll do anything, man.
Like, I do anything. Like, I picked beans. I worked at McDonald's, Domino's. I don't know if people have heard this from other podcasts, but I went through 11 jobs and either left them, quit because I was like, I cannot walk in again or pick another bean or break another branch off an avocado tree. When you spend 7 hours from like 5 a.m. when the sun's coming up till about like 2 or 3 p.m. On a farm, picking the same bean off different bushes, going down a row, up a row.
You'll figure something out.
You literally, your mind's just like, you can do better than this, man.
Yeah.
This is pathetic. The Asian women are doubling your bag levels. Like, they've got twice as much value. And what's mad about picking beans or avocado or doing something like that, it was 100% commission based.
There was no slacking off. And I was like, I just don't have the hustle for this. My mind, having ADD, my mind would go through so many things that I needed to face and go through in fears, and it was too much. Like I needed something that was gonna develop my brain more. Like I was going numb.
Yeah. Dude, from labouring like from 14 all the way through to like 30 at different times of my life, I reckon I probably spent 7 years in that was the work I did. A big reason I was like, I'm going to learn stuff is for that reason. Like, I think I would go crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if I couldn't activate my mind like I activate my body, I'd be stuffed. Like, and I couldn't think of anything worse. The biggest thing that motivates me is fear of not living the life that I'm supposed to live.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that a lot of young guys feel, and young women, and it's scary. If you're motivated by that, there's not much you won't do to try and get out of it, if you know what I mean. And only people that grew up harder, I think, feel that way of like, I've got to escape something.
Or they get to a point where they grew up easy, but then they get to a point where they're just huge pain and they're just not used to it, and then they make the development from there.
Yeah, you can do it that way too.
So you got the customer base through the Pumped On Property. What does Pumped On Property actually do at that time?
So at that point, and still now, we basically sat down with someone. We learned about where they wanted to be financially in the future, and then we helped them create a property strategy to get them there. So let's say you want to earn 50 or 100 grand a year for life. That's what Pumped On Property helps you do. We help you implement a property plan that 15 years from today, that income will come in for life without getting out of bed or going to work. So we just buy property, man. That's all we do.
Because you've got way more experience. If I'm, and this is the stuff I've been thinking about lately, I want to buy a property with my mum. The reason why my mum is because she's been there my whole life. She's been the only one there for my whole life. No father and stuff. And, I trust girlfriend, I trust all that. But the thing is, it's like, if I was going to go in deep with someone and I would make only completely equal choices in everything, it would be with my mum. And it was my dream always to help her out. So, if I was going to buy, let's say, a property on the coast or whatever, I would come to you and you would know 150 times more than what I would do. So what? It's silly that people try to do it themselves still.
It's just like anything in life, bro. Like, you can go through your life thinking that you can do everything, and a lot of us do, and you can get amateur results. Or like, I wanted to figure out the fitness thing, so I just come to someone with 300,000 followers on Insta who's like the world's best trainer living down the road from me, which was you, and I figured that stuff out. What would have taken me years.
You just fast tracked it.
In a week. I got more from that week than all the trainers I'd ever had before. And it's like that with property, man. Like, we've bought so much property in Sydney and Brizzy and the coast now that I get it, and I get how to move it very quickly. But,
you would see it like I see food as like the matrix for me. Like, I see the numbers.
It's all.
And when you drive past the house, you know the numbers. You know the area. You know the numbers.
Yeah. So like, the thing about me, like health for you and coaching for you, is property was my passion before I even thought about business. Like, the reason I'm in a property business is because I'm just obsessed with property, and because I've been able to like fast track financial freedom, 33, don't have to work again. I want to help other people figure that out. It doesn't have to be property, it could be business shares, whatever their thing is. But for me, it's just, as soon as you have choices back where you don't have to worry about money, life becomes harder because you've got to confront yourself, like, but also much easier because you've got choices every day.
Where is Pumped On Property at the moment, and where could you see it be? Or are you it's hard to ask someone if they're happy with their business. They're never going to say 100% happy, but where is it at the moment, and where do you see it go? And what's your opinion on the housing market at the moment?
So yeah, like, the last couple of months has been really tough. Like I've talked to you about, outside of all this stuff, I've set in a plan in place to help 15 people a month. Moved into a new office, sort of scaled up staff-wise to do it, and then the rug was just pulled out from under us, and we went from literally 80 leads a month to 20 now. And so we've decided that the new business as usual is helping 5 people a month. The property market right now is just surrounded by fear, and the fear might be warranted, it might not be, but sentiment drives everything. And so
emotion is what really gets there, right?
And it's been scary from a business perspective, seeing that and going from like 4 years of just growth to going, okay, we're actually going to cut back to like a third of the business we've done every year for 4 years. But I've been confronted with that and had to deal with it emotionally and mentally and logically over the last 2 months. And what I've realised is I don't want the business to be like it was, because it was growing so quickly. I never looked back.
You're going to turn into a Yui.
Bro,
the numbers
would
be and you seen the multimillionaires that you were working with go through the exact same thing. So now that you've kind of now that the water's settled and you're like, okay, I've got things. We know the plan. Yeah. I've got things sorted. Obviously you have to go into a bit of a shock mode at the start. It's normal as a human. It's like a bear coming at you to defend yourself. Seeing the market change, the leads change, you to change your strategy, which is good. But now you can be like, look, I worked for the guys and they were still sitting sweet. Yeah. You just had to make a shift.
We made the shift, and that's the cool thing about my and your nature. Like, we will adapt. Like, it's just part of who we are. We'll just change. And so we've pivoted very quickly to make it really profitable and sustainable still and really help people. But it's opened up this whole thing, which is, I might have kept doing it for the next 20 years because there was good cash, but helping people one-on-one is beautiful and buying them property is great. But I just want to do that 5 times a month. And what my passion is now is helping more people through a lower cost model, coaching in the future online. Over the next couple of years, we'll build that out. And yeah, it's exciting, man, to think about new projects again.
So you've started doing, you've been doing YouTube for a little while?
Yeah. And
you've just started your own podcast?
Podcast, yeah.
Is it, what's it called?
The Pumped On Property Show.
The Pumped On Property Show, and that's on iTunes and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff.
Awesome, perfect. So if anyone's listening, check out the Pumped On Property Show. It's going to be directly related to property investing, financial stuff like that. So you'll basically get time with Ben to learn about that stuff, and it's something that I'm going to listen to because I have no idea about property, like nothing. Like, we're in Ben's office right now, and it's like 2-story looking over the water. I did a video on my Instagram just earlier introducing that we're going to do a podcast, and I was like, I don't even know the value of this house and how much it would cost to rent. So I love knowing that I can get the value of you for free through a podcast. That's massive, and I think that will be a huge lead generator because they're going to get lots of free information, and then when they want to personalize that, just like a coach, like with me doing my podcast, when they want to personalize that and get something more laser focused to what their needs are, they can get in contact with you. So for you outside, we've talked about business, we've talked about stuff like that. For you outside business, what's your kind of movements? I want people to know about the setup you have at your office here and what you've done with your health here. So you've created some exercises that you can do around the office.
Yeah, so after working with you and realizing, like, after 10 years of isolation gym training where I go do a bicep, I don't have to do that anymore. I can get the same result physically but in a more fun way. So we've set up like all the cool stuff you showed me, man, like just a pull up and a dip bar. We've set up like not a squat rack, but just like some barbells, some dumbbells, like some, what are those things called? Kettlebells and some like medicine ball stuff and some rope stuff and skipping rope stuff. We just do like crazy mixed workouts all the time and just love it, man.
And do you feel like that is more enjoyable than going to a gym and just doing simple bodybuilding movements?
I love it, dude. Like, I can't even believe how much time in my life I spent doing that.
Yeah.
But obviously that was for a reason. And the way that you've taught me to move through function is just better than I ever moved, even though I might have been stronger and more ripped then.
And you're obviously using a stand-up desk now, and has that helped you a lot?
Massively. Like, I just don't sit down anymore. It's crazy. But I'm big on these 3 things you told me on the weekend. Like, I really want to start implementing the hang, the standing push-up, and the deep squat. The deep squat, just for functionality.
Yeah, so I haven't actually released that to anyone yet. You're my...
Sorry, dude.
No, that's fine. No, I'm gonna release it. I'm actually gonna do videos on it. But you're my dummy.
Yeah.
And someone like yourself, like, if it's not time efficient and it's not effective, you're not going to bullshit me.
Yeah.
And you won't even have to tell me. You just will stop doing it. But I can promise you that I'll see you in like 2 weeks. You'll message me and be like, I feel way better.
Yeah.
So we're using I call it the mob 3, which is the mobility 3, which is 3 of the movements that I find that are super effective. I'm gonna build a regression, so an easier version of those as well, because one of them is the handstand on the wall.
I'm not unfit, and it's hard for me to do that, as you saw yesterday.
Yeah. So I'm gonna create a regression of that, a simpler version. If you can't get into a deep squat, I'm gonna show you some simple other exercises that's just like on one leg or on your knees. None of these you need any equipment. You can do from the office, at home, whatever. And pretty much anyone can dead hang, even for 5 seconds, and then the next day for 6 seconds. So build on that. And what would you say as advice to anyone who's listening to this that's more business driven than health driven?
The thing that I've learned that took me so long to learn, that is business or health, is it really takes time. Like, to build your body, to build my business, I used to want it all today or yesterday or tomorrow. And what I've learned is this is a lifetime thing, and it is super easy to set up your position long term from a business to like really kick ass. It is really difficult to do it if you don't have the discipline to follow through for 10 years to get there.
So the same as, because you're actually healthy, you play soccer. I played indoor soccer with Ben, and he's actually crazy.
We won the grand final.
Yeah, we won the grand final for the beer comp, for the good ones. That was really fun. Like, you're athletic, you can surf really well. I love hanging out with you for the stuff that I'm not used to doing, so like surfing and soccer and stuff like that. And what I've seen is you've learned that the habits and the disciplines that you've created through business, you get really good at fitness quickly, because you just know, okay, I just got to do these same habits and be disciplined.
Do you know what's weird, bro? It was actually the opposite. Like, I trained for a long time before I met you. Like, when I first started training with you again, it was because I'd let myself go with like 3 kids a bit. But I actually built my business discipline from training. Like, everything I did was showing up to the gym, eating well. Like, that was my foundation, that discipline, from just choosing an apple as opposed to a chocolate bar.
So when you were younger, you did go through that fitness phase?
Like, I was right into it from 20, because I grew to my height, which is just under 6 foot, but I was like 55 kilos at 18, man. I just shot up so quick, I was so skinny. And then I started training and went from 55 to 75 kilos in a year, and just
put it on,
hulked out first, and then like cut it back to like 6% and looked good. And I was like, I trained like for a long time, and training is it, bro. Training is just everything for every part of life, like relationship, business. It's all the same thing. If you're disciplined, you're successful. So
if you can nail training and fitness and those habits, that will transfer over to everything else.
Because you're world's best training and physically, you'll be world's best at business. It's the same skill set transferred. It's just, you got to understand, like, the 5 things that matter in business are the same 5 things in training. It's just there are new 5 things over there, so they look different, but it's the exact same package. And that's when that penny dropped for me, bro, and I went, that is the same as that is the same as that. Everything's easy, bro.
It's just dressed different, but it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, man. Like, if you know what food you need to put in, what training you need to do, what rest you need to have, business is the exact same thing, and no one should feel any more overwhelmed about succeeding in business as they succeed in their health. It's the same diff.
That's massive. Epic. I just literally want to go and just start hustling in my business now, because I'm like, I have the tools, I can do it. And it wasn't until you inspired me to go online with my business on a bigger scale and valued my time and said, look, I've been around millionaires and I feel like you deserve to be more successful. And now I'm doing that, like YouTube, podcast. We're going to build it together. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, that was sick, dude. Thank you so much.
That was epic. All right, guys. See you later.